Ooh, nasty.
Hello, Julius Howe here, currently dying of a cold and sweltering in the London heat, but welcome to a new idea for some old stuff that I've got. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to release some of these old interviews with comic creators that I've got currently stored up on my hard disk. This one that is in this show was an interview with Carlos Ezquerra that me and Simon B conducted, that's very technical, isn't it? Conducted under experimental conditions in, I think, 2005 or 6, I can't remember off the top of my head. But so the idea is just to put them on the internet somewhere. It was a show we used to do called Inky Fingers, which I think may still be hosted online, but it's all kind of broken up into different bits, so I just thought it'd be easier to do it like this, and I can probably throw together a nice video to go with it as well. So yeah, that's the idea of the show. Just to say, I was good friends with Carlos Ezquerra, so I mean, it's great that we got this interview with him, because he didn't do that many interviews. I kind of wish I'd done some more interviews with him, really. I used to chat to him a lot, and there's loads of stuff that he said that would have been great to have a kind of recording that I could share with people, but that's life, isn't it, I guess. So yeah, please like and subscribe. You'll find my channel does a lot of comedy. I'm a comedian, obviously. That's going to be some comedy. We've got a web series on there, and I share old clips of comedy, some like obscure music stuff, and then I'm going to start releasing some more comics-based stuff as well. So you'll get that. So whatever kind of whatever element of my varied interests you're a fan of, just subscribe, and you can watch it all. You know, I'm sure you got time. Come on. So yeah, this is the extended interview with Carlos Ezquerra. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Carlos.
I guess the first question is that I would like to ask: how do you actually pronounce your last name?
Ezquerra.
Ezquerra.
Yes, but I suppose if I say Ezquerra, nobody will understand me, so I have to say in England, Square.
So we've sorted that out already, straight away.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a question that's been puzzling people for many years.
Yeah, no, and then Ezquerra is my second name.
So what would be your full name?
My full name is Carlos Sanchez Ezquerra.
Okay.
Sanchez is my father's name, and Ezquerra is my mother's name. And that is very normal, especially when for artists or writers. You know, for example, Picasso is his mother's name too.
Okay. Well, it's an educational podcast
Absolutely.
As well now, isn't it? Yeah. So for you, I guess what would be your sort of average working day? Do you have a method that you always stick to?
A normal day is I can go up around 9 o'clock in the morning. I am working until say 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I watch the news, then I have lunch. I got a siesta, a small siesta, and then around 4 o'clock or something like this, I start working again until I am tired. It could be until 9 o'clock, or it could be maybe at least sitting in my table, in the table. It could be maybe until 6 o'clock, or that will depend. You know, I am very anarchic, so I don't have any routine.
Are you a fast drawer, Carlos? Do you work quickly, or does it take you a long time to do stuff?
No, I am very quick. I think in the old times I was the fastest pen in the West. No, I can be very quick. You know, I can do something like 20-25 pages a month, necessary. But if it's not necessary, I can be doing 2 pages a month. So
okay. Does it depend on the deadlines?
Yes. Yeah, well, normally when it's the end of the month or I have to finish something, it has very short time, I tend to work faster than when I started. You know, when the first day of a new story, for example, I can be maybe doing half a page a day or even less. And then the last days, when I have said the deadline is near, I can do 1.5 pages. So it's quite a big difference between one thing and the other.
And is that just because you've got kind of, when you first start, you've got to establish all of the scenery and kind of all the characters that are in it, and then later on you're kind of just carrying that through? Or is that just because there's someone phoning you up telling you need to get this to me by the end of the week?
Normally because I am quite lazy.
Well, that's very honest.
Yes, I left everything right to the last day, Anyway, if I have to do something, I can be quite fast, But if not, I am quite lazy, and the times fly in between my fingers, doing nothing. Well, it's because I really enjoy what I am doing. I am like that. I've been always like this,
Mm-hmm. What's the creative process like for you on a project? So, for example, where does it start? Do you start by, if you're doing a story, do you input ideas, discuss with the writer, and then you sort of build the story out of that? Or do you kind of usually have the script come in fully formed and then you start working from that?
Yeah, normally come the script, and I say with the writers, as I've been working so many years with them, with John Wagner, Alan Grant, Carstenis, I don't discuss very much the story. They give me the script, I read it, and then all the visuals are mine. It's me the one who decide many of the times what do I how they look things. The ambience, the characters, clothes, everything, and also if it's necessary, the speed of the story I can control that too, and I never have any complaint from John or from Garth or anyone at all. So it's about the creation of when I read the story for first time with new characters. In the when I read the story, it's like if I am looking a film into my head. So I can see quite well how the character looks in the way that they tell me how he moves, what is his personality, and after that I try to reflect that on his face and movements, and clothes if it's necessary. And also I try when I do a character to be easily identifiable, even if he changed clothes. The only one that cannot be identifiable if he changed clothes is Dredd.
Yeah.
Yes, you can identify him, but because that practically is the uniform the most important thing of him. But with the Salting Dog, he has been changed clothes, he has been shaved his hair, everything, and you still can recognize it's him. Yeah, not only that, but also if you see just a Pilgrim or any other characters, Darren Red, Bloody Mary, they are very easily recognizable.
Yeah. And do you so when you read the script, do you see it like a film in your head then? Do you visualize the whole thing kind of playing and then you pick scenes out?
Yes, exactly. And that is the reason that I always they know already, but I always ask the writers to be very, very much a bit like a telegram, very short descriptions. Because if they are long descriptions, I get confused in my head. So I cannot concentrate on what is really happening.
And I guess the short description gives you some sense where you can go with your artwork, because if there's a really long-winded description, you have to try and copy it out almost exactly, whereas there's quite a short description. It gives you a bit more creative freedom, I guess.
Yes, not only that, but normally it's because even if it's a long description, I am quite impatient, so I don't read all the description. The writer, he can imagine one thing, and then when it comes to draw on paper, that is another totally different thing. So, and that is my option. It's not the writer option. It's mine.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, as I said, with the writers, I always work. They know that, and we compenetrate very much indeed. With John Wagner, I've been working for almost 40 years. So we are like an old married couple. And with Garthen is how long? Maybe 20, 25 years, something like this. So it's quite a long time.
Yeah, you seem to have a sort of an established sort of stable of writers that you work with now. Alan Grant, John Wagner, Garth Ennis, and now I think Gordon Rennie has been kind of the most recent one that you've been working with.
Yes, I've been working, with Gordon Rennie doing Coburn. That it was like a copy from Major Easy. And then recently I've been doing a Dredd story with Gordon Rennie that it will appear sometime in the magazine. There is a Dredd story and then a character who could be remembered a little bit as El Mestizo. Has nothing to do with that,
No. Then that one's coming soon, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose so. In the moment I send the work, I don't know. I never know exactly when it's going to be printed. I only knew that when I read the comic.
So I know a lot of 2000 AD fans will have heard you talk about the creation of the iconic Judge Dredd. But for those people who haven't heard the story, can you just tell us briefly how it all came about?
Dredd became, the first idea they gave me about Dredd was a long policeman, just a policeman, but dressed in black with a bike. And in New York, say the year 2000 or 1999, something like this. Well, I took it and then I started thinking, okay, if he's fighting against the baddies, he has to be protected. So I put 2 shoulder pads, elbows, and the knees. And then I said, well, if he has to be recognized in a world full of crimes, he has to be recognized. So one of the shoulders, it was an eagle. Because also with an eagle, it's an American symbol, and also it's a fascist symbol, using since the Roman time. Then the seal, I take the seal out of the Spanish coins of 5 pesetas or 25 pesetas in the bag. So I just make out of there. And the bike also, I make a big, really bike, very impressive. Also, if he was sitting like he was sitting in a chopper, to draw the gun is not easy from the waist. So I put the gun on the leg, that it was far more easy, and especially if it's the kind of like a chopper, as I say. And with the sitting, I remember they told me, well, it was a big city growing like very, very fast. And in Spain, we say, well, it's growing like mushrooms. So I make all the buildings, not with a phallic shape, but with a mushroom shape, Well, I don't know, I just let my imagination to fly. John was not very happy with it, but I think Pat Mills was enthusiastic about it, and they changed the scripts. That's it, the way I created Judge Dredd.
But then famously, you didn't work on Judge Dredd pretty much until the Apocalypse War.
No, I made some sort of stories, but the thing is, I made the one story, and I was thinking, okay, the first story will be mine. That is the one you can say I can demonstrate is mine, the series, And then I don't mind about who do that after. But then for me, it was a big surprise that the first story I saw printed, it was the one by Meg McMahon. So, I feel so angry that I say I was never going to work anymore with 2018. And not only that, but also even some of the figures that was in that story, they were just like maybe no cut and fixed, but very similar. It was just taking a copy of mine. So, I feel very, very angry about that. For me, it was a bit of frustration that the first story was not printed, it was not mine. Then he told me after that the first story was a censorship, as it was considered too violent for that times. But they don't tell me that from the first moment. I only learned all these things once they were printed.
After that, you moved over to Star-Lord to create Strontium Dog.
I moved to Battle Magazine,
Mhm.
where I was doing Major Easy, and then also we tried to create a couple of new characters. One is Comrade Bronsky, that I don't think he was very successful, and also El Mestizo. El Mestizo was their own comic on their own magazine and on their own time. But I like it also, that one. And then I think 1 year later, they created the Star-Lord, and John Wagner called me to do a series there, and is where it appeared Strontium Dog.
And those other two were with Alan Hebden, weren't they?
Yes, the other ones, they were with Alan Hebden.
And then Strontium Dog got moved back into 2000 AD, so you ended up back at 2000 AD anyway.
Yes, and well, even before that, I think I made 1 or 2 single episodes for Judge Dredd. Anyway, it was morning, so no problem.
You'd calmed down by then.
You're supposed to be a professional too, so it's also I say, okay, even so, the character is mine, so I can do whatever I want. Yeah, I never have any problems, with my characters.
And then there was famously Bad Company as well that you created with John and Alan that went over to Peter Milligan.
Yes, they asked me about that, so I made the characters, and then they gave it to Peter Milligan. I don't know why. Maybe I was doing something else, or maybe they don't like it. It was nothing to do with what I did.
I quite like Fiends of the Eastern Front. But you worked on that with Jerry Finley-Day, didn't you? It's quite different to a lot of the stuff that's in 2000 AD, I guess primarily because it's not actually really science fiction.
I suppose they gave it that to me because I was very much a specialist in bracket of war stories. Well, these things just come, it was the editor who gave me that. I read it, I like it, so I carry on doing it. And it's different, for example, what happened with the stainless steel rod that I made with Kevin Gosnell. That was, we were talking a lot about the series and beforehand. It was a lot of talking between Kevin Gosnell and myself about what to do and what not to do. And it came out also very nice series. I think it was the stainless steel rod series.
And the other character of yours I really like, which we've touched on a few times, is Coburn, Cursed Earth Coburn. He's the absolute opposite to Dredd, isn't he? He's completely laid back. He upholds the law in a different style completely. And was that fun to do, to kind of do almost the anti-Dredd?
Yes, I always really love to do anti-heroes, Mainly most of my characters, they are really anti-heroes. All but Dredd. That is the only really law-abiding character. But the rest of them, even from the first story that I was doing for Battle, that it was Rat Pack, it was a story based on the Dirty Dozen. From that time onwards, all my characters has been anti-heroes, all of them.
2000 needed to get you working on some new characters, I think. What was the last one you created? Was it, apart from villains and antagonists, was Coburn the sort of the last big character you created?
I don't know. I always consider myself that I've been underused, but also because the way it is work in the comic industry, not in the comic industry, many of the editorials is that they don't pay for the creation of characters, so that doesn't motivate you to do new characters, because in the end, the one who has the most benefit is the editorialist, not the artist. Make you a bit worried about what you do about characters. But the last one, maybe was, I don't know, I have no idea at all.
You should have a list of them all. When you create them, you should pin them up on the wall. You could have the whole wall full of all of the characters you've created.
Yes, it will be a big. I need quite a big wall, because it's not only the main character, but also is the secondary parts. For example, in Strontium Dog, it was Million Face, McNulty, Darren Red, and torso. Anyway, it's a lot of secondary characters that has their own personality and their own character.
Yeah, it's a shame that, well, I find it a shame personally that a character like John Dredd, sort of brilliant design, but has never, in my view, really been expanded beyond sort of a sidekick or side character within the Strontium Dog world, so that she's had her own adventures, but they've not really built up a kind of storyline that's allowed it to become kind of a top character.
Yeah, well, they make a series with her, but they changed her so much that I always thought it was a bit crazy, because it was not really Darren Red, was another character. But who was the artist?
Mark Harrison.
Yeah, Mark Harrison, yes. And he did a great job, but have nothing to do with Darren Red. They even changed, in the end, they changed the time where she was living. Nothing to do with the real Darren Red.
They kind of took the story and just made something new, really. They should have just used a new character.
Yes, they ought to give her a new name and do a new character. I never understood why they carry on with the same name, because in that way the royalties they come to me.
But I think they brought her back now, haven't they? And on with.
They've been doing one or two miniseries of Darren Red and a solo, and so it's coming back again as it was originally. But also that happens sometimes when you give some characters to some other people, they tend to disappear sometimes. Like happened with the Strontium Dogs. Well, it was not very successful, as I understand. And it has nothing to do with the real Strontium Dogs.
No. How do you feel about other creators working on the characters that you've created? I mean, in some cases, they as you say, have taken it so far away from the sort of original character that they basically created something else. With Darren Red, and again with Strontium Dogs, they created a whole host of other characters and just kind of integrated Midden Face and Darren Red into that story.
Yeah, well, I don't mind. It's something that I created, and I don't mind what they do. Well, maybe with the Strontium Dog it's a little bit different, because it's a character that I love very much. And the only thing is, some of these characters, if they change a lot of clothes, so the special character of personality of these characters is on the face. The problem is that when you change from one artist to another one, you tend to change the character. It's not the same Strontium Dog drawn by me, for example, as drawn by any other people, unless they put the curly hair and the eyes. But physically, they don't have too much in common. As for example, with Judge Dredd, as is the uniform, and it's very peculiar uniform, more or less, they do their own versions. But in the end, it's always the same. The eagle in one side, the shoulder pad on the other. It can be done by anyone. And I don't mind, in the sense that every artist who come, they put a little bit of their own personality on it. So sometimes many of the ideas or new ideas, they could come after.
Yeah, I mean, I always prefer series that have one artist, one writer on them. And sometimes I find that a series that I call a franchise, like something like Shimura in the magazine, which has different artists on it, it can be very confusing, because you've got one different way of looking at a character and then another. I've always preferred having one artist on the series, and I know you can't do that with something like Dredd, but certainly something like Strontium Dog or something like that, I think is, your Strontium Dog is the Strontium Dog for me. That's it, full stop. And any other attempts just look strange.
Yes, I suppose it's, and especially you can notice even more, even with characters like Dredd, when it's a long story and it's taken by different artists, 3 or 4 different artists, because nothing to do one with the other. And it's very good to follow a story drawn by different people.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the fabulous things about the Apocalypse War, which is certainly a favourite of mine, is that it's your pens for the whole of the 7-month epic.
Yeah, I always try to do in the epics all the stories by myself. Sometimes it has been possible, and other times don't. Like the Pit, that it was mixed with the Judge Dredd magazine. But for example, also Necropolis practically is all the Necropolis saga is mine too.
And Inferno as well, written by Grant Morrison.
Yes, Purgatory and Inferno. Yes.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing it. It was a lot of action, and I know the people, they hate it.
The art is lovely. It's really, really nice art.
But I think I did quite a nice artwork there, and I really enjoyed it. It was, the characters also, they were quite good, I think. Grace but anyway, it's, the people don't like it and don't like it.
And with the character being yours, how was it good when they started? Because I know that there's acknowledgement of who created the characters now, but that didn't come in until the 90s, wasn't it? When they started putting created by.
Yeah, I think it was in the 80s, maybe late 80s or something. I think it was in the 80s. No, the only thing is, at least not in the editorial world, in there. It was sometimes giving the paternity of Judge Dredd to another artist, but it was more in some fanzines or even in the 90s in Spanish magazines or in other magazines. They always say, well, Judge Dredd created by a British artist, or giving it the paternity to Brian Boland or the Gibbons. But anyway, it does have not too much.
And you've worked on a lot of Judge Dredd and Strontium Dog stories. Do you have any particular favourites of the stories that you've worked on?
My favorite has always been Strontium Dog, in the sense that it's far more complex character than Judge Dredd. With Strontium Dog, almost all the stories are favorites of mine, and with Judge Dredd, well, many of the normally has to be a long saga. My favorite, it's Apocalypse War to Necropolis, or even the latest ones like Origins. That it was the last big story I made, for that.
Yeah. And with if we go back to the Pit, what was the reason you didn't draw the whole of the Pit?
No idea. I don't know, that was an editorial decision. So it's well, maybe because it was publishing at the same time in 2000 AD and in the magazine, and then they put both together, But
right, okay.
Yeah, I think it was something like this. Then I was doing the one in the 2000 AD, and some other artists, they were doing the ones in the magazine.
Because it ended up all in 2000 AD, but it was quite jarring the way it would jump to a different artist. It was quite hard to follow.
That one, it was, you can see, and originally I don't even know it was going to be done in the magazine. So I tried to do some characters, pretty strong characters, like the rock judge that he was in disguise, or several of those characters, they were quite well drawn, quite well, very well defined, their personality.
Yeah, and in fact, some of them have gone on to have their own series, like DeMarco is now still running in the magazine, and Guthrie, I think, was continued by Gordon Rennie for quite a long time. So
they were quite strong characters, but it's because I thought all the story was going to be mine, but anyway.
And then there have been other series as well. I'm a big fan of The Burning Man, a series that only was created for one episode and then was never continued. But have there been any other series that you've either worked on that have never actually come to fruition and actually become full series, or that you've started and have been cancelled that you would have liked to see sort of progress
No, it's because in the end maybe we do a pilot episode or something like this, and then in the end never come out. One it was about Detective Private Eye. I don't remember now the name, but I did, I don't know, a couple of pages and the main character, and that was very, very good indeed. But I don't know why it never come out from the drawing table. And it was then it was several projects. Like another one, it was a priest that it was with the gun in one side and the Bible on the other, and that never also come out properly. And but well, it was not many characters that they don't come out, but it was 2 or 3.
When you're actually creating a new page and you've got the script, do you do prelims or sketches or something before you actually draw the actual page?
Yes, it's because I am what you can say I am a dirty artist. So if I start sketching on the page, it can be a nightmare because I make 50 lines. Instead of doing one line, I can make 50 lines, and then when I am inking is when I really choose one of those lines. Now I am working with a very thin kind of paper that I put in top of that and drawing more clearly.
And have you always worked like that? Did you ever use a light box or anything like that before? Or has it always been you would sketch and then...
No, because the paper is a special paper, special for markers, and that is a very thin paper. So you can, if I make the sketch with a marker, I can put the paper in top of it, and I can see exactly more or less where the lines are. And as I said, normally also the roughs are not the finished artwork. I can say I can be changing at the moment. I am doing in the real paper. It can be changed totally.
Yeah, especially on computer because you use a...
Yeah, well, I do in paper and then I scan the computer and the color I do in the computer. Now I started doing the coloring with the computer in 1986. I think I was maybe the first artist in England to start coloring with computer.
Yeah, I remember when you switched to computer, there was a cry of shock, wasn't there?
Yes, it was also a lot of very crazy artwork, but I was enjoying it. I was just practicing with it. I was like playing.
Yeah, I remember people couldn't understand why any artist would want to use a computer. They were sort of obsessed with the age of fully painted and sort of inked artwork. But now almost every artist is a computer artist.
Yes, and well, for me, even in the speed, in the time I use for painting by hand, the speed is practically almost the same as the one I use with the computer. But the computer is a bit more fun and it's cleaner. I don't have to have all these kind of colors on top of my table. And as I say, as I am not a very clean artist, I am a dirty one.
And so what materials, so apart from the computer now and markers, do you have any sort of, and your very thin paper, do you have any specific pens or anything that have you ever used a brush?
Yes, but no, I got one of these, the Pentel is a brush.
The brush pen.
A brush, yes. But in the old times, when I use a brush, the first thing I always do was to cut the point and make it flat, Mm-hmm. I remember Dave Gibbons was horrified. Every time I say I do that, But I never been a brush artist. I am more like a pen one. It's my artwork is too sketchy to be used the brush.
Do you like to experiment, Carlos? Do you like to try different techniques, or do you just stick with kind of what you know?
No, I like to use different techniques. I don't mind. I've been using almost everything. Chalk, inks, even oil. But then in the end, I tend to do the one that is faster for me. But normally I try to change my style from time to time. If I see new things from another artist or new ideas.
Is the process different working for DC as opposed to working for UK companies?
From the first time I started working for, I remember it was DC Comics, the usual thing, it was to send first the pencils, they look at it and they change whatever it is and send back to the artist. And from the first moment I say, we're not going to do that. I finish totally, and if they don't like something, I change. But I refuse to send first my pencils and then receive it back and all that kind of things. So I always have exactly the same. My technique is exactly the same for one comic or for another.
Yeah, that's great. It's great that they gave you the kind of the freedom to be able to do that.
Well, for me, it's always been very, very important to have freedom. This is the reason I never wanted to change from 2000 AD. I always feel very, very comfortable in 2000 AD. I think maybe I am the only artist who haven't moved to the States. The all people who were in there. Brian Bolton, Nick Gibbons, everybody has been just going to the state, but I never been interested in that because at least in 2000 AD, I feel very, very comfortable. So it's I have total freedom, and normally the people there is very nice people, and this is the one that is in comics. So I never have the necessity to move to the States. Plus, also maybe you can say that I never liked the superhero stuff, maybe because when I was a child, here in Spain, I never read that. So maybe it's because of that, but I never liked it.
So what did you read when you were a child, Carlos? What sort of comics did you like to read?
I think it was a part of the Spanish ones, some adventures, comics, and so on. I read also a lot of Rick Kirby, Julieta Jones, Prince Valiant, well, all the classic Americans, Ben Ball, even Alex Raymond was, anyway, that kind of stuff. But I never read any Superman, any Batman, or any of those comics.
Yeah, that's interesting, because whenever you hear, say, an interview with Brian Bolland or Dave Gibbons, they always talk about how their sort of career started when they started buying DC comics, and it was always their dream to go over to DC and work on superheroes.
Yeah, I suppose also that have an influence in their style. They work with the brush and very clean lines, and but if you look my artwork, it's not exactly the one to fit for superhero. I only drew one Batman one time, along with John Wagner. I don't think he don't like the superhero very much. But this was because one dinner in London, we were challenged by Archie Goodwin. I was doing when he was editor in DC Comics. Mm-hmm. I was doing a Batman story. It was printed something like 8 or 10 years after. So maybe it was not very good when it was just sleeping inside the drawer,
Yeah, and you also did a Spider-Man as well, didn't you? A Spider-Man image once.
Spider-Man was only an image an image that someone asked me because it was the anniversary of Spider-Man, so I don't mind that. Also, I've been doing the characters with Garth Ennis in the series of Kelvin, the Magnificent Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes, these superheroes.
And the boys as well. But
yes, and the boys, yes. But in the boys, it appeared one or two superheroes.
And so was it reading kind of Prince Valiant and those sort of adventure comics that made you decide that comics was something you actually wanted to do?
No, until I was 20 years old, I don't even know you can be able to live drawing comics. I have no idea at all. But I always liked it very much to draw and to read. And then I was doing the military service in Zaragoza when I met another artist who was doing Christmas. And he told me, well, if you want to be an artist, you can go to Barcelona. Now it's like a boom. So when I finished the military service, I just go to Barcelona and give some proofs. I started in the top editorial, and then I was picked up by the lowest one, It was a start. It was full of energy, and I was also very ambitious to go to the top places. And so, after that, it was, that is the way I started.
Was that a studio environment? Were you working in with everybody else in those days?
No. The only thing is we meet, and especially once, because I was in Barcelona, and then in the 72 I go to England. And in the 74 I started working, I think, for Battle and so on. And what happened is that when being there, as you bring the artwork to the editorial, you tend to meet there to some other people. So that is the way I meet John Wagner, Pat Mills, Dave Gibbon, Brian Boland, Matt McMahon, so Kevin O'Neill. So you were there, and it was like a club sometimes, and it was very nice. Then later, and especially with the internet, all that kind of thing has been lost.
So there was quite a big scene then, wasn't there? Sort of centered around the conventions as well.
Yes, I never go too much to conventions. Also, in those days, I don't think it was too many conventions. It was a lot of fanzines. And in many of those fanzines, well, it was, 74, something like this. Normally, I was ignored totally because I was a bloody foreigner. Normally for those fanzines, the only people who existed was Brian, it was Dave Gibbons, it was Kevin O'Neill.
And were there many Spanish artists because I know there were quite a few Spanish artists working on British comics. Yes. Were you one of the only ones who actually came over to live in the UK?
I think so. I was, at least in that time, I never knew any other one. But even before me, it's because most of the Spanish artists, they were working with agents. So they can work in Spain, and then the agents send the artwork to England, and even they don't even know, cannot even speak English, and because the agents give the scripts already translated to them. But it was a lot of Spanish people working especially for this Battle library, the little comics, and where it was working big names. It was Alberto Breccia, it was Hugo Pratt, Victor de la Fuente in Spain. It was a lot of big names working for that comic.
Okay, so that's kind of when you sort of started working in the UK. If we take a step back and sort of go back to childhood, what are your kind of earliest memories of drawing? Was it sort of redrawing things from books and comics that you'd seen?
No, it was I don't know. I suppose it must be 3 or 4 years old because I was not a very tranquil boy, so it looked like the teacher, to keep me tranquil, they give me a piece of paper and pencils. So I was in a corner just drawing all the time. That way they can keep me away, in control.
And what kind of things did you draw?
Something that I do for many years. When I was bored in class, it was like, I don't know, for example, I draw a castle, and then I start drawing very little figures of people fighting and things like that. Who says it can be a castle or it can be a ship, pirate ship. Maybe in the end it was something like 100 little figures of people fighting. That was a way that when I was bored in class, when I was doing.
And you've never worked on a story with castles and knights, have you?
No, I don't think so. No.
Well, there you go. There's an ambition as yet unfulfilled, isn't there?
No, I don't mind very much.
You're often associated with 2000 AD, obviously Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog,
all of which are science fiction.
When did that sort of come into your art? Was that just the market changed with Star Wars, or were you interested in science fiction beforehand?
I remember I do 1 or 2 stories before I came to England, science fiction, for one of these very low editorials, very little editorials. But normally up to then, I like it, science fiction, but I was not exactly over interested in doing that. Normally also I am more interested in the characters more than in the style. I don't mind if it's a pirate story, a western, a war story, but I am more interested in how the characters move and how they react.
With regards to sort of the language of comic storytelling and placing perspective in comics, was that something that you just sort of learned naturally, or did you get any training from anybody else in that?
No, I learned how to draw comics first watching films. For example, for characters, I watch a lot of John Ford and many of the films. I really like it. So that it told me how to tell a story. And also for many, many years, my bedtable book was The Confessions of a Film Director by Eisenstein, the Russian director. I remember he was telling many, many times how he do the Potemkin, the battleship Potemkin, Ivan the Terrible, and that kind of films. And I was, he was one of my teachers. And also I learned a lot of how to draw comics with writers, for example, also with Charles Dickens. He was one of my masters, just to teach me how to tell a story. If you read Dickens, he is very much a very cinematographic writer, in the sense that, for example, he can describe a scene on the table. It was a bucket of fruit. Then it was a woman knitting or something like this. And then it was in the chimney, the fire was, so you can imagine foreground the table, middle ground the woman knitting or whatever it is, and then the background is a big chimney with cauldron boiling. That is how I learned how to draw comics.
In terms of your big break, can you tell us a bit about how you got actually published for the first time?
No, as I said before, I go to Barcelona, and then I started with the big name, with the big editorials and the big agents. Naturally, they say, oh, no. And then, as I say, it was the bottom one, the real bottom one. And they asked me for a Western that they do. It was 24 pages with the script, with lettering and artwork. And I think 24 pages, they pay me something like £1, no, 50p or something like this.
50p? That's not very much, is it?
No, but in those times it was the 69, 70, yes. But it was something, someone was interested in my work. Once in there, I can only go up because I was really at the bottom. I always been also very optimistic in the sense that I always say, if I found a stone in my way, you can consider a big stone that you can do nothing at all, or you can go around the stone or jump on top of the stone. So typical glass half empty or half full. I always see the glass half full.
Looking back sort of where comics are now to where it was when you started, I mean, how can you compare it? I guess it's changed an awful lot since you started to where the comics are today.
I think today is more difficult because it's a lot more people into the comics world, and they are better prepared than we were. Most of us, we were in those times. Now many people, there has been art schools or careers about art, and normally most of the artists from that time, we are a bit we were self-taught. At the same time, not so many comics as then. Because I think, especially the video games, has taken a lot of people out of the comic world. If you go to a convention in those days, you see a lot of 14, 15-year-old boys. You go today, and most of the people who come to me for signing is, say, 35 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big difference, isn't it? There's certainly not as many comics around today as there were when you started. But also, as you said, video games and television and movies and stuff have become a lot more prevalent in people's homes, and that's what young children do. I've got a 10-year-old, and he barely looks at comics. He's just not interested in them. And I think it just makes getting into this industry today a lot more difficult for people who want to, because there's probably only really 2000 AD in the magazine in the UK that have a consistently good distribution. I know Marvel and DC in the US are probably still pretty high, but it must be pretty difficult.
So with the Marvel and DC, it's nothing to do the quantity of comics they sell now. I have nothing to do with the ones they were selling in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, I remember in those times, just to be in the top 50, you have to sell, at least 100,000 or something like this. Today, if they sell 50,000, it's a very good number. And then with 50,000, they just close the comic because it was not working. So it changed, even in the States, it changed the quantity of comics.
And then if you go back to the sort of 40s and 50s, they were selling millions of comics because that was the sort of the main form of entertainment that people had.
Yes, exactly. But then, I suppose that is life. It's changing from one thing to another. And today, the comics, they are used more maybe for new ideas for video games and films than really to make money with comics.
Yeah, it's quite a cheap testing ground, isn't it, comics, to see if you've got a character or a product that you can sort of move into different media.
Yes, and also you can, today, the rates per page, I think they are even lower than they were in the 90s. So that means something.
Going on to kind of art now, original art. I know it's an original art podcast, and we're finally getting to it now.
I thought you were prepared for everything.
I am. I understand, like many artists, you never received a lot of your artwork back, especially your early artwork, for example, the battle stuff. How do you feel about that now?
Well, the battle stuff and also the 2080 stuff or Star-Lord. I received some, but many of them that it was lost. I suppose someone was making some money out of it. I never give too much importance originally. Now, yes, because I see the prices they are going the pages, and then you think, okay, this some money can be made. But it's done. It's done. You can do nothing at all. You cannot go back to the past. Anyway, you can do nothing, so better not to think very much about it.
You still got the glass half full attitude there, I see.
If you want to survive, has to be in that way, Once, or you laugh at life, or life will laugh at you. So I prefer to laugh at life,
And are all your battle pages lost? Or do any survive?
I don't have any from battle, any pages. I think they are all lost. And, they never returned that to me because when they started returning pages, battle already was from another editorial, I think.
Yeah. I've never seen anything from battle.
No, so I suppose maybe it was burned or... Well, yes, because if not, you can always see one page or something like this. I never saw anything.
Yeah, I've got a battle page in my collection, but it's a later battle, much later, 1983, I think it is. It's a John Cooper Action Force page, and they're relatively easy to find, but some of those 70s ones just not easy at all.
Yeah, the ones in the 70s, I never saw one of my pages, in there. One of my pages, or even, I don't know, Darkest Move or any of those.
Yeah, such a shame.
Never seen anything from Things of the Eastern Front either.
No, I don't know. Someone must have it.
Someone's got it in their shed. Yeah.
Yes, but I never saw anyone at all. Anything at all from there. Also from the Apocalypse War is a lot of pages. They were lost, so I don't have a big quantity of those pages. Most of them they were lost. Someone was making some profit.
It seems that way. Brian Bolland has a very big issue with his art that's gone missing. He talks about it quite a lot. That unless he signed his art with a red pen, which he does for all the art he received back, that he considers it to be stolen. He'll try and chase it up.
Yes. So, but the last time I was talking with him, he said that practically he got all the of the material. Also, Mick McMahon, he told me that he saw the material early in the 90s or something like this. And he don't consider any page lost.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, also I cannot just go now behind a fan say, "Oh, that page is mine. How is it lost?" Because that fan have nothing to do with the stealing the page. So it's not his fault at all. So you can do nothing, and that's it. Better accept that.
But you do have still quite a lot of your art, and you are still producing art. Do you sell your art as well? How do you go about doing that?
Yes, also is I got an agent selling art. Is the Art Palace, I think, and they are selling. They have got something almost 100 pages of mine or something like this. That pages originally they were taken by Rufus, but then I have some disagreement with him, and they were passed to this Art Palace, and well, have no complaints with them. Plus, also I got a lot of pages myself. Most of the necropolis, a lot of the stainless steel rat. Even I got some Thark stories, and the new ones. I got practically all, and especially from 1996 that I started doing with the computer. I got all the art, the same from England as from the States, like Bloody Mary, the Just a Pilgrim, all the Dreads and Stunting Dogs, Al's Baby, which one? Bob the Galactic Bomb. That was done for DC Comics, and well, I still got a lot of material there at home.
So you've got the biggest collection of your own art, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose.
And do you sell that privately through? I know that you do a lot of commissions and things through your Facebook. Do you also sell your art through Facebook as well?
Yes, exactly. They can get in contact with me, and then we can talk about the pricing and so on. So.
Okay, excellent. Well, we'll put a link to your Facebook page in the show notes, so we'll make sure that everyone's got your Facebook details if they want to contact you about any art that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I think I am a reasonable man.
And that's the same way for commissions as well, isn't it? So
yes, exactly. If someone wants a commission, they contact me, and then we carry on talking privately. So it's no problem.
I think there's quite a lot of commissions that have come through, and they're really high quality commissions as well. Do you really enjoy doing them?
Yes, I enjoy doing it. I never do any commission until last year. But then last year, people started asking me for commissions. When I was invited to go to the Great London Comic Convention, something like this. It was in February. And I was invited to go there. I couldn't go because it was a strike on the airport. So I was not able to go there. And then the people, I start sending the commissions to the people by post. And from there on, I start just doing commissions for everybody.
Do you get much time, Carlos, to chat to fans or to meet fans? I know it's probably a bit difficult where you're based, but do you get over to the UK or out into Europe for the conventions and stuff very much? Yes,
at least I go to the UK maybe a couple of times a year. And when I go there, normally I stay all the time signing from maybe 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock, that is when the convention closed. All the time just signing, along with John Wagner. I don't mind just to be on there all the time meeting fans. I am very grateful to all the British fans, and I keep them in my heart.
And do you take art to sell with you as well at conventions?
Sometimes. The last time I took the original pages from Origins, and I sold a few of them, but no, usually. Maybe this time also in July when I go to the London Film and Comic Convention, I will take some pages with me. That all depends, if I don't like to travel with a lot of material.
And you said you're at the London Comic Convention in July, was that?
Yes. And that's July, and then another one in September.
Okay.
In September near Luton Airport. I don't remember how it's called. Nice? Yes, I think it's called Nice, that convention.
Okay, well, we'll stick links at the end of the podcast.
And everybody who come normally, what I do is a sketch, very fast, quick sketch. But I try to do for everybody that is in the queue. It's the least I can do.
And do you collect comic art yourself, Carlos, or have you been given any pieces by other artists?
Well, I've been given some pieces, by another artist, making an exchange. But no, I don't. I am not a collector at all. I got my own, and it's occupying quite a lot of space. So,
do you collect any other sort of art? Do you collect paintings or sketches outside of the comic art world?
No, nothing. My wife was started, just having some sketches from another artist every time we go to comic conventions, but that was several years ago. Now it's nothing. No, I would like to be a big collector of these green not pounds, but the big ones, but not possible.
What are you working on at the moment?
At the moment, I am doing Dredd story. Of a 10-episode Dredd story, I'm doing episode number 3. So it's still 7 more to go. And after that, I don't know, I suppose Sandstone Tuned Dog. And also, I am starting a new story I am doing with Alan and with John at the same time. It's a little editorial in Glasgow, I think. In Scotland, that is going to get printed. And it's a comical one. It's an erotic comical one made by Alan Grant, John Wagner, and myself.
And that's a creator-owned one, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So something for the evenings.
Yeah. Yes. I always prefer to do my own character.
Yeah, the characters you've worked on that aren't your own seem to be mainly Garth Ennis characters, don't they? I mean, Hitman and Saint of Killers, and like you say, Kevin and the boys.
Yes, they could be mine, perfectly. No. With the boys, it was a bit more different. It was a bit like if I have created them.
And in the stories you've done with Garth, there's been a lot of violence. I know that some fans find that level of violence quite difficult to take, but you've always been very good and almost relishing the level of violence that happens in Garth's scripts.
Yes, I never like it too much, the graphic violence. You can see too clearly, So for me personally, I prefer to see a knife going up and down and some blood coming out the bottom of the picture than making the guy, just being really stabbing with the knife. I think it can be more effective and even more dramatic. But another time, is, I've been forced, in brackets, by the writer to do something gory. So I don't mind very much, but, if I have to do it, I have to do it.
Yeah, you're certainly very good at doing the gore.
Yeah, I try to do, that something tasty.
I guess one sort of question really that I'd like to know is what did you think of the new Dredd film? Your name kind of appears at the end as the creator of Dredd along with John, which was great to see, but did you actually think it was a good film?
Yes. The first one, they spend a lot of money, so the ambientation, the city, the first 10 minutes of the film, they were fantastic on the Stallone one. But then, after 10 minutes, in the minute 12, he took the helmet. In the minute 13, he took the suit. So in the end, it was just Sylvester Stallone running. And in this one, the problem is that it was that maybe the budget was not very big. I think it was around 1/3 of the budget of the Stallone one. So the ambientation is not exactly the best one, but on the other hand, Dredd as Dredd, in this one it was a proper Dredd, you know. As in the first one, they tried to put so many things that in the end you can see almost nothing, and it was the other one. You can say is one day in the films of Sylvester Stallone. So this one, I think, it was more real, you know. But also, it's necessary to say that the first one, it was some things. For example, the Angel Gang, it was very good, you know. And the Mega City was also a beautiful city done there, but the problem is that it was not a Just Dredd film, it was a Sylvester Stallone film. As in this one, it was a really Just Dredd film, but it was a little bit poor, I suppose because it was not too much money, but with the vehicles, with all that kind of thing, you know, the people in the street, looked very much like a 20th century film, a 21st century film, you know, and the one that is also very good is the Judge Minty. Do you know the film?
That's a good film. I've seen that. Yeah, that's a fan film, isn't it? You can see that on YouTube. If you just type in Judge Minty, you can find their YouTube channel and watch that. It's only short, isn't it? About 10, 15 minutes?
Yes, something like this. But it was very well done. I like it very much.
Yeah, with a very small budget as well.
Yes, well, that was even less. I don't know if it was even £1,000 or something like this. It was very, very little. It was everybody has to put their own suits, their own everything, you know. But it was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they'll be very, very pleased to hear your kind comments about it. No, it's a really good film, and they did a great job as well of getting it to look so realistically. You can really tell they're big fans of the series. Okay, brilliant. All right, well, thanks for your time. That was very, very kind of you.
Thank you very much for doing the interview for me. The first one.
First one, yeah, definitely.
We're very privileged. Thank you.
I would like to see how many people listen to it. Maybe half a dozen, including you.
Including our families, yeah.
Oh, well. Anyway, thank you very much for calling.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
So that's the end of the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Some amazing stuff in there. Like I said, I wish I'd have had a chance to have more interviews with Carlos. It's a real loss to comics that he's no longer around, and also big loss, obviously, to people that were friends with him, because he was a great guy. So like I said, please do subscribe to the channel. Julius Howe, that's my name, that's the channel, you know, it's easy to remember, and give it a like as well, because it shows. Don't do the down vote, you know, I mean, don't be a bitch, come on, just do the up vote, the nice one. And thanks for listening.